So those of you who haven't heard, so those of you who haven't heard, it looks like Kenny Omega is most likely going to be going to All Elite Wrestling, and the reason he hasn't already been announced is because of contract obligations. But it just so happens when their next rally for the Double or Nothing tickets going on sale, when they announced that, it turns out that it's also the same day that Kenny Omega becomes a free agent. So I think that pretty much puts it in the bag. So what I want to talk about is how important and how much of a game changer this truly is. I really do believe that this is an absolute game changer, and that Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho is your obvious feud. It's the feud that probably got some of the most attention last year when they mixed it up in Japan. So I think if you could do Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho, you're an absolute fool. You're an absolute fool to try to not. You should save this for TV, right? You shouldn't try to do this without TV. This should have at least 2 months, 3 months of build on television. So the way I would book this is quite simple. Kenny Omega, really build the idea that these two legit hate each other, and with time you can really sell that. What I would do is, Chris Jericho comes out at this press conference. He's already a part of All Elite Wrestling, and then basically I'd be like, I really almost didn't sign with this company because I hate your egotistical ass, and I felt like you were trying to take control of, be the front runner, and here you are. Chris Jericho's trying to be the front runner of All Elite Wrestling. I'd have Kenny Omega come out and say, "Look, man, I really do legitimately dislike you," and flat out just say it in those words. I legitimately dislike you. You've done nothing for this group of Bullet Club, for Elite, right? You've done nothing for the Elite. You come in, you try to take all the thunder. The same thing you tried to do in Japan. You build yourself as this iconic, legendary wrestler, and you were just a mediocre talent from the '90s. Really build the idea that Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho do not like each other. Then you see like flames in Chris Jericho's face. They do like a long stare down, and then finally Chris Jericho says something to the effect of, "You know what, screw you," and he just punches him. And then you do this big pull apart. You do this big pull apart, and then what everybody would suspect is that at Double or Nothing you would have Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega, but you don't do that. And what you actually do is you book Chris Jericho in one match, pretty much against a nobody, and you book Kenny Omega in a match against a nobody, and then you have those two guys interfere and basically help the nobodies win both of their individual matches, and then that's the only time they would touch each other physical. So then from the press conference that they have for the ticket sales to then they touch each other again at Double or Nothing, but all they would do is cost each other their matches, and then they wouldn't touch each other again until they would advertise the confrontation would take place on the first episode of All Elite Wrestling television show, and those would be, until there's TV, those would be the only two times these two actually have eye to eye contact. One at the press conference that they're going to have, and then at Double or Nothing, I'd have them touch each other again, and making sure the other guy went, costing each other the match that they're both scheduled in, and then have them obviously have a huge confrontation on the first show, and then you book that however you want, and you build towards your next pay-per-view with these two guys all on television, and hopefully you can do that for 2.5 months out, and you just let these guys tell an awesome story, and really Like I think All Elite Wrestling gets this more than anything. When you get to this point, it writes itself. You let Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho just be creative, and you just let these two come up with great skits. Chris Jericho, with years in the business, knows how to be creative. You set these guys down in a room and you just let them come up with stuff like hating each other on Instagram, hating each other on Twitter, hating each other, just act like a 20th century kind of feud, and let these guys just basically convince the world that they legitimately hate each other, and make it so fucking personal that it blurs the line. And people like Dave Meltzer are like, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, people who are real life friends of these guys are calling them up on the phone going, is that real heat? Is this real? Like, what the hell's going on? And you're like, yeah, I fucking hate that motherfucker. I mean, you sell it to everybody. You know, Andy Kaufman, Jerry Lawler style. And I believe you can do that because they did it already once. They convinced people that they had legit heat. And then they're like, yeah, we calmed down because it was what was best for business. But now it's what's best for business to hate each other's fucking guts. And by the end of it, you know, they're not, you know, make it where members of the Young Bucks are struggling to talk to each other. Make it like pick sides. Anything you want to do, have fun with it. And let this shit play out for a good while. All right. That's just my input. If they get Kenny Omega, there's two things. It is an absolute game changer because it means they have the biggest unsigned talent in the wrestling business. And obviously, the WWE should take this as a huge loss. They'll try to say it's not a huge loss, but it will be. Then you get AJ Styles. I think it writes itself, right? You reach out and you spend all the money in the world and you get AJ Styles. I mean, he's the next guy that you want because of, you know, he's part of his ties with the Elite, and it'll seem genuine, and he's a big name because he's been to the WWE. You get AJ Styles. And I know there's some people that dislike it. But I mean, to really make All Elite Wrestling a group of the Elite, you have to get John Cena. Now, obviously, I don't even watch WWE. I never have. But the fact is, you can't deny that John Cena is to this era what Hulk Hogan was to the prior era. So you reach out, you get John Cena, and you get it, and you make it fucking happen. And I don't give a fuck what anybody fucking says. I know that there's a lot of people that disagree with this. They say that it can't happen. Well, for one, it can, because money talks, bullshit walks. So you get John Cena, you get AJ Styles, you get Kenny Omega, and you give those three any amount of money that they need to get there. I think you got Kenny already. I think it's going to take a good amount of money to get AJ Styles, and obviously it's going to take more to get John Cena, but you do whatever it takes because you have those three guys, you have the business, and guess what? You have the business by the balls, and you get those three guys. No one's watching anything else because you took the John Cena era, the AJ Styles era, and you took Kenny Omega. That's different, three different demographics, right? The people who watch that, AJ Styles is that belief that WWE can actually be something different, even though they're never going to be. And then you got John Cena, who represents everything that is the PG era. And whether you like that or not, that's what he represents. And then you have Kenny Omega, which represents everything that is All Elite Wrestling. And then you have Chris Jericho, who's just a piece of that. He becomes a piece of the cog, right? He becomes a cog. And that's what you want. Like, that's what WWE does better than anybody. They make their guys part of the cog, a cog in the machine, right? Well, then you start going John Cena, AJ Styles, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, and you start viewing these guys as pieces of the cog in the AEW machine, right? And then you realize, okay, now we're talking about something completely different, right? Now we're no longer talking about a wrestling machine. We're no longer talking about a wrestling company. We're talking about a wrestling machine. And that's the way you want All Elite Wrestling to be viewed, as a wrestling machine. That means if any one of these guys go, it won't kill the company. But they're all necessary parts of the cog, of the machine that make it run. And then this machine can compete with the WWE machine. And that's what we're aiming for. God bless each and every one of you. I love everything that's going on with where All Elite Wrestling is going, and I'm going to repeat some of that. But as I say, you get AJ Styles. You get AJ Styles because you want to prove that you own this generation. AJ Styles represents the audience that believes the WWE can be different. You know, they want it to be different, right? Then you get you know John Cena because he represents the new era of professional wrestling. You get John Cena because he represents the new era of professional wrestling, his PG era. Kenny Omega represents everything that we love about what all elite wrestling could be. And then I just think it's the perfect setup. This is all the called, right? This is all the machine, all the pieces in the call, and you really create a wrestling machine. Um, and I guess we already have a sports entertainment machine. This would be the wrestling machine, and we finally get to see which one's better. And I think we all know wrestling one's better, and it will beat the WWE if you run with this formula. But the longevity is the harder thing here, right? Because you can get John Cena, you can get AJ Styles, you can get all the top talent it takes to get a better rating. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue, the hard part, and everybody, because it hasn't been done since the Monday night, since Nitro did it, since WCW Nitro did it, everybody's hung up on the fact of beating the WWE in the ratings, when in reality, you can do that for 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And the first time you do it, it's going to just make all kinds of headlines. So it won't be hard to do it a second week, because once it's proven that AEW can do it, they'll get a rub off of that alone, and they'll do it for 3 or 4 more weeks just off of that alone, because they did it once. So that's why Vince never wants it to happen again, because he knows that. He knows the first company that does it will immediately get a rub. And if you don't do it quick, everybody says, well, you can't do it overnight. Well, actually, when you do it, you almost always will do it overnight, because when you do it, you're going to get that rub, and then you're going to get another rub. And it can last 82 straight weeks. And I think that's what WCW actually did. They got that hit. They hit the ratings. People couldn't believe it, and they just kept right on doing it because people couldn't believe it was happening. And I think you'll see some of that. Anyways, I love each and every one of you. Like this video right there. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell for all the notifications. And thank you for watching. Remember, I do wrestling videos, obviously, because you're watching one. But I also do cop blog videos, recording the police for responsibility of government. Not hating the police. I want to make that very clear. Not hating the police, but recording the police for accountability reasons. And then I just do off-the-wall entertainment videos. Try to be entertaining. Try to be fun. Always trying to keep it interesting. But two things, obviously, I focus in on is pro wrestling. It's my passion. And obviously, activism, which is also my passion. I love each and every one of you. So like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell for all the notifications. Again, I really do truly love each and every one of you. I love this country. I live in the United States of America. And I would like it to stay a free country. That's why our First Amendment activism is so important to me. That's why making a difference is always important to me. And that's what it's truly about. And never get it twisted, because that's always what it's about. It always is about the Constitution. And some people try to say, you're just trying to be entertaining. You're not trying to do anything else. Well, first of all, I always say this. Education is entertaining. Education can be entertaining. I think my education is entertaining. And I believe that is the key to Happy to Message being successful, as far as actually making a difference. Because if we're boring and no one's watching, then we're not really making a difference. So it's just as important to be entertaining as it is to be educational, and it's just as important to be educational as it is to be entertaining. I think in Hollywood, we've lost touch of that we believe either we're one or the other, and that it's not true. Because no matter what, if there's a camera on, I always say this, if there's a camera on, if you're on print, if people are watching, you are entertainment, whether you like it or not, right? So it's important that we always are entertaining. And I do watch a lot of cop activists, cop watching activists, but I tell you what, if they're not entertaining, I don't watch them. Because I know the law, and I think I do anyway. I obviously know that there's people that know it better than me, but the activists that I watch are also the activists that I find highly entertaining. Anyways, there's so many of them. That's how you have to watch, right? You can't watch. No one's gonna watch the boring one, because it's not a sign of disrespect. We appreciate what they're doing, but if they're not doing it in the same entertaining way that other people are, we're going to choose to watch the more entertaining ones. It's just common sense. God bless each and every one of you. Like the video,